Hello there, we are back with very interesting, very important, and a hot topic in the field of psychology neuroplasticity. This term was first given in 1948 by a Polish neuroscientist, and it is just brain's ability to rewire connections in response to our thoughts, environment, and lifestyle. Let's break the term neuroplasticity. Plasticity is ability to change. What are we changing here? The structure of the neuron. What is neuron? Neuron is a specialized cell which transmits electrical and chemical signals from one neuron to another. Basically, it's sending message to the neighboring neuron. I know a lot of technical terms, but I promise you it's very simple. Once we understand the anatomy of neuron and once we move ahead with the video, all these things will get very clear to us. न्यूरॉन का फंक्शन बहुत सिंपल है. जितना भी सेंसरी एक्सटर्नल इनपुट ब्रेन को मिल रहा है उसको आगे रिले करना और उसको आगे ट्रांसफर करना सो दैट जहाँ पे सिग्नल पहुँचना चाहिए वहाँ पे सिग्नल पहुँच पाए. अब न्यूरॉन के 3 इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट्स हैं. फर्स्ट इज डेंड्राइट्स. डेंड्राइट्स इज दैट पार्ट ऑफ द न्यूरॉन विच रिसीव्स द इनकमिंग सिग्नल. Then that incoming signal, once received, is sent to the cell body or soma where it is processed. Once the message is processed and decoded, then it is sent to the axon. Axon जहाँ से वो message अगले neuron के पास पहुँचेगा. So that means from axon it goes to axon terminals, and axon terminals are in touch with the next dendrites of a neuron, and they are in touch with each other, like the axon terminals and the dendrites of another neuron. They are in connection with each other through the small tiny gaps between them called the synapse. Now the interesting is that dendrites have these small little protrusions on them which are called the dendritic spines. What's fascinating is that these dendritic spines can shrink and expand from time to time, from hour to hour, depending upon the strength of the signal. Research has proven that there are structural changes happening in our neuron, and we just discussed about those structural changes. The dendritic spines, the shrinking and expanding of the dendritic spines. अगर dendritic spines में shrink आ रहा है तो मैसेज आगे रिले करना और ट्रांसफर करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है for a neuron from one neuron to another. There are 3 regions of the brain where neuroplasticity takes place: prefrontal cortex, hippocampus, and amygdala. Prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain which is associated with decision making, learning, planning, reasoning, judgment, social skills, delaying of gratification, and all these important functions. And then you have hippocampus, a part of the brain which is associated with learning and memory, and then amygdala, part of the brain which associates with your fear and anxiety. Repeated exposure to stress and anxiety can lead to shrinking of dendritic spines in the areas of prefrontal cortex and your hippocampus. Imagine the areas where your decision making is taking place. Imagine the area where your learning and memory is taking place. The connection between the neurons is weakened here. You must have noticed people who go through a lot of stress and anxiety, they struggle with the functions of decision making and learning and memory, and this is the reason why. On the other hand, the part of the brain which is associated with fear and anxiety, amygdala, there the dendritic spines, they expand and make more connections and more communications between the neurons, and hence leading you to even form more anxiety and fear in you. Amygdala important है. Actually amygdala वो part of the brain है जो सोचता कम और ज़्यादा करता है. Say for example, you're crossing the road and suddenly the car comes from the other side and your brain tells you to move back. This is where your amygdala is working. But when there are more connections made than required, it can lead to negative consequences. It can also lead to depression. Now the question is, can we use neuroplasticity to our advantage? The answer is yes, we can. How do we do that? By meditating, by living in present, by realizing the power of now. A research was conducted which revealed that 47% of our times we are not exactly paying attention to what we are doing. And also it revealed the result that the people who don't live in present are actually sad. अब क्या है, हमारे पास choice है. हमें ये भी पता लगा कि क्रॉनिक स्ट्रेस ने हमारे ब्रेन को क्या करा, और हमें ये भी पता लग रहा है कि मेडिटेशन हमारे ब्रेन को क्या कर रही है. The choice is us. What do we choose? I know easier said than done, but with practice and with consistency, you can actually achieve it and use neuroplasticity to your advantage.